welcome to Maunalua Past, Present, and Future. My name is Luka Zavas, Project Coordinator and INA Educator with Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, and today we'll be talking about Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center, and I'm joined by Kai. Welcome, Kai. Thank you for coming. Do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself with our audience?
Sure. Aloha, Luka. Super honored to be here today. Aloha, my name is Kai Hoshijo, and I work for Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center. I am the Outreach and Restoration Specialist there, and we work at two sites, Kanewai and Kalauha'iha'i Fishpond. And as I said, super honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do.
Awesome. So we met about almost 5 years ago now, back on Kauai, and at the time I was finishing off my master's project, and you were just about to enter into your master's, and so I know it ties a lot to the space and what you do now. So do you mind just kind of giving a history and background of what your project was?
Sure, yeah. So I was a 2022 graduate of the Natural Resources and Environmental Management program at UH Manoa, and you were right before me. I enrolled as we were doing research in Ha'ena and Wainiha and Hanalei with Kumumehana Vaughn. And while I was there in the program, I had awesome mentors like you that were all in the same lab. And my project was very inspired by home. So I'm from New Valley, Oahu, and I've worked in the community there, volunteered in the community there, as many others have. And my project was focused on the ahupua'a practices, konohiki practices, and laws of new ahupua'a.
Okay.
And at the time, I was really focused on the questions of how did we get here today in our community and our relationships to things like the ocean or our fisheries, knowing that, knowing the rich history of Maunalua and the fish ponds that were in the area that line the shores. So knowing that history and wondering, you know, what is that relationship? How did it get there? And moving forward, what can that relationship, that place-based relationship, look like in terms of management and returning to more Hawaiian management practices of our oceanscape? And so the project, because it was during COVID, consisted of more like historical perspective, looking at konohiki fishing rules, konohiki fishery maps, old photos, LCA documents, and also accounts by lineal descendants and community members that had that relationship growing up near the ocean and eating from the ocean. And a lot of that was inspired by Ha'ena and a lot of the work that more rural fishing communities have done for their communities, and just kind of connecting those dots from a historical perspective and or an oral history perspective. And a lot of it was also inspired by Chris Kramer and all the work that he's done with the fish ponds and preserving them with the community. So understanding like all these different historical parts and the current work being done in the community. And that's kind of what my project ended up being, and the final project. Cool. Yeah, I was really happy that I was able to do something to contribute during those 2 years while we were in school.
Yeah, so not a lot of people have the time to like dig deep and go through. I bet you went through like stacks and stacks of like books and papers and digging through all of that and compiling it in a way that you can share the stories of the past to the future, which I'm sure you do at Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center. And so I'm not sure if many people know where it is or what it is. I know up until like maybe 2.5 years ago, I wasn't quite as familiar with the space, but I do see it now because it has a beautiful mural in front of it. And the Alai'ula actually was one of the reasons why I came and got to know the space. But for our audience that doesn't know of the space yet, do you mind sharing a little bit of its history and why it's so special to Maunalua?
Sure, that's a great question. So the Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center, it was founded in 2007. So I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And the mission of the Fishpond Heritage Center is e ho'ola kako ina loko i'a a Maunalua. So let us properly preserve the fish ponds of Maunalua.
Okay.
And so this is with that knowledge that Maunalua Bay, that 7-mile-long coastline, was laden with local or Hawaiian fish ponds that fed the community. And you'll see a photo of Kanewai Spring And Kanewai Spring is one of the spring and fish ponds that we help to manage and care for and preserve. We do a lot of education with the community, a lot of restoration work. And since its founding in 2007, you know, the community board and staff have really championed efforts to preserve these last two remaining fish ponds. A lot of the area has changed, as we know, a lot of damage from development and maybe things being covered up by different types of interests. And so with that rich history of fish ponds and that inspiration from Kupuna, especially Auntie Laura Thompson, she really stewarded that effort to preserve the keystone areas. It's just a continuation of taking care of Kanewai Spring and Kalaha'iha'i.
I see.
Yeah, and so a lot of it comes from the water too, so vai being really important to our coastlines, to our wetland areas for Alai'ula, and the fish, so anai, and that's the sign you see now in Maunalua to spread awareness. But a lot of it has just been community purpose, you know, the fish ponds were always for community, and so we, since its founding, have continued to do that work to bring community into those spaces and learn about the local i'a.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know you guys have both the spring and the local i'a, but there's also a house that is located on that space. Is there, and I cannot remember, but somebody was telling me something special about the house or that somebody had lived there. And do you mind sharing a little bit of like who had called that space home before?
Sure. And so the fish pond originally was King Kamehameha the first summer home, and one of his many summer homes, and so it's a very sacred place. So from what we know about this space, that was King Kamehameha's grounds, and it was a spring that would sweeten the anai. And so you would take fish or mullet, and which is the king's fish, and you would put it in the spring to sweeten the meat. And so over time, you know, ownership had changed, and so the house that sits there now was a part of an old estate.
Okay.
And so there is some history with like the architecture, and we hope that one day that can be a great infrastructure for like learning and education. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you talked about that the Anai call this place home. Who else calls Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center home?
Sure. There's a lot of wetland birds that frequent the area that we see from time to time, a lot of koloa. And also the community calls that place home, and so a lot of folks, kupuna, keiki to kupuna, that have that relationship with the place, whether it's through volunteering or through school groups. Though I would say those people, you know, they are home when they are there. We also steward 2 ulu new groves.
Oh, wow.
And so that's something you don't see in Hawaii a lot of the time. And the 2 ulu new groves are very a big part of what we do and the work we do. So those also call that place home. We also have a lot of different native fish species.
Okay.
Hole, the anai. And some of these things you see and then you don't see, and it's just one of those things that's a part of the natural resource, and it fluctuates with the seasons. Yeah.
So like, you know, seasonal visitors, like we're very familiar with the kolea that come through, that we know that it's like winter time or that it's about to become summertime, depending on what they're wearing.
Yes, yeah. Always have to be observant on site.
Oh, that's so cool. I know a couple of times, like I said, the Lai'ula have made it over there, so I have waddled in after them to see how they were doing. I know you shared a couple about like groups that are coming and work that is being done, and I know it doesn't seem like a huge space, but there's a lot of things that need to be cared for in a, you know, not like acres and acres of an area, but like a smaller space. And so what kind of, do you mind sharing a little bit of what kind of work you guys are doing to bring it back to being a, you know, giving care back and breathing life back into this space?
Sure. I was able to start volunteering with Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center when I was in high school, and I got to intern with Chris there. And so a lot of the work that I started doing under Chris's direction and leadership was it's very similar to the work we do now, and a lot of it is invasive species removal and mindful invasive species removal, because you're working with a water resource in a very sensitive area where certain things are valued, like the ulu new grove. You really have to be more careful about how you're removing invasive species, where you're removing them, and being safe. And so we have a lot of groups that come and help us remove the invasive species. And since I started volunteering, you know, the space looks a lot different. There's a photo here of the spring and Chris talking to the kids before we start the workday. And this whole area, if you could imagine it, was covered with haulekoa, which is one of the major invasive species that we're always trying to kind of combat with. But also, if you remove too much and you don't have anything to plant, that's also something that we have to be mindful of. That's one of the always projects that we're doing. Another project that we have been taking on this summer is partnering with Maunalua Hui to just, you know, repair certain areas on site. This is one of our groups. This is at ŌleloNet Fishpond.
Oh, nice.
And you can't see the fish pond, but this actually gives you an idea of some of the, like, the coastal education that we provide to plenty of schools and plenty of groups, and really introducing the kids to these natural resources, and whether it's pulling weeds or clearing areas for just the functionality of these fish ponds. It's a really good introduction for the kids. So actively restoring both sites on the grounds, but also vai restoration. And so I can't get into all the details, but we have a major vai restoration project going on at ŌleloNet. And our goal is to just get the vai, or the fresh water, restored to this place, into the fish pond, so that not only the fish pond site can grow and the water can be clean and the fish pond can fully function again, but also so that coastal area can have the limu return and the fish return. We've had many, from my master's project actually, many fishermen, deep sea fishermen, have always said that the vai is the most important part. And some of these people are fishing way past the reef. So for them to talk about the importance of vai is, you know, pretty impactful.
That's amazing.
So we're trying to do that. That's one of the other projects we're doing, and that's the goal. Really exciting. And we also just, you know, we have regular volunteer days that we try and get people involved and build pilina to the site. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool that you guys are bringing, like, kids to come. And speaking of, like, you started there when you were in high school, to imagine, like, if you had started, like, back when you were in elementary school, and the kind of relationship that you can have. And hopefully, you know, the being able to come multiple times or things like that, you know, building that relationship, because it's like, you know, it's not that one-time event. It's the multiple times of going to a space, to getting to know the place, and, like, the seasons, the good, the bad, when it's going to be super muddy, when, you know, water's super dry. Something we have to do with Keavava is like, oh, the water is up today. Oh, the water is not done, not there today. And things like that.
The tides change, and that's, I think, the beautiful part about the work that I get to do at the fish ponds is every single person, not just the place, but the community skill level and the values that they bring and the skills they bring. It's you can't do anything alone. And everyone's gonna have a very different and creative way to approach the resource, and that's so welcome. And that's something that I love to see in the keiki. I mean, to think about, okay, the future, you know, they're gonna have a completely different reach on things like strategy, or like partnerships and technology and art, and so bringing all of that spirit to the place, it's so welcome. So that's one thing I really enjoy about the volunteership and the community engagement we get from a lot of the groups and the kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're the future. So
yes. And then, like, not only just the future, I remember when we were talking before we started that you were like, a lot of community members, like retired community, really want to come and, like, have a space to take care of. So you guys are located really, like, in a walkable area.
Yes.
And so I'm sure that you guys get some like kupuna that come through and be like, I remember when this looked like this, or like those kinds of stories, and you're able to like, not only through your research, but now through place, being able to bridge that gap between the kupuna that come and share and the keiki that you have there too, yeah?
Yes, I think our location and also my generation, we're just really students of the place and the community. And you'll see Chris, who has this amazing kind of bank of oral history knowledge from all the work he's done with Anne-Marie Kirk and others. And it's really like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what my generation understands about community engagement. And so there's plenty of times where kupuna will come to the space and share with us, you know, their memories of the place. And that's priceless. It's just timeless value, and you just have to listen and learn. So we do have a lot of moments like that, and they're very special.
Oh, that's
very
nice.
Special.
So I hear that this space has really, you know, you've done so much to help take care of this space throughout your time, from being just a volunteer to now working part-time as the outreach and educator.
Yes, restoration, yeah.
And outreach and restoration. And so, you know, you've given so much to the space. Like, how has working there given back to you and impacted you?
Yeah, I think all the time spent there, especially with Chris, you know, since a young age of him teaching me about where I came from, you know, where I grew up, and not just Makai, but also Mauka, and how everything is very connected. It's taught me to be a better student, I would hope, you know, and always trying to be intentional and listen to the natural resources and the environment you're in, and knowing that that's a very a practice of place, like a very Hawaiian kind of centered perspective and management practice. And so the imi-ike, or like the search for knowledge, is always there too. And I see that in the board and the community members, and the Chris as our director, as our po'o. And it's always taught me that like there's always things to learn about the places you're in, and that these kipuka are incredibly purposeful, and that the resources are telling us something, and we have to listen. And once we listen, we can really help to usher in and facilitate that restoration, so that everyone can enjoy it and everyone can also benefit, so the community can really have a space to be in that. And so I'm just one person. I'm very fortunate that I get to work there and engage with the resource, engage with the community. And I also think that it's changed my perspective on what education looks like. And so I really think that these local spaces, or any natural space, is like the best school out there.
Yes.
A lot of the, it's the best school, you know, and it teaches you how to be a student and to really look for your teachers. And that's something the Va'a space has taught me too.
Oh, okay.
But the local is the best school. You see the kids being able to reconnect, and every time you go there, you're much more changed. And that kind of interaction and I guess flow is, I think, one of those things that hopefully like curriculum I see it happening more and more, because the calls keep coming in. But I do think that when it comes to education, like our natural resources are the schools.
And so the natural resources of the kipukas on land and like right along the shoreline are not only important, but you also have the awesome opportunity to learn from like the actual sea and going out on voyaging. And do you mind sharing a little bit about that experience and just how it's influenced you?
Yeah, so I am involved with voyaging. I am a student of navigation and a volunteer crew member of Voyager with many va'a. So my first sail was on Uluvehi and Austin Kino's canoe in Maunalua Bay back in 2017, and now I sail a lot more with Hokule'a and Hikianalia. This is a photo of us sailing down the Nepali coast, and these are some of my crew members, great friends, great people, and our captain in the back, Tomiko. And just awesome opportunities to reconnect to the deep sea, which is very much a part of how Kanaka first arrived to Hawaii. And it inspires a lot of the work we do on land too. It's so connected because the resources are all connected. So what's happening out there with our weather systems, we see it happening and affecting our island systems as well. I mean, you're sailing in the same storms that create the same weather patterns that you're going to see on a local level through kilo practices at a place like Kalauha'i or Kanewai or Keavava, and each ahupua'a has their own wind and rain, and seasonality and seasonal stars, and those are the things you're studying and seeing out on the wa'a. And I've been very fortunate to go on a couple deep sea legs, and all of that has taught me that home is so important. Like, you can go as far as you can out there, but returning home is what values are you bringing home and what values are you returning to as well. And so what does your home look like? Why would you voyage?
I see.
Right? Who are you voyaging for? And the canoes definitely have taught me that. And I think that there's also a lot of historical connection to Maunalua and voyaging, I think, to all places in Hawaii. But knowing my place in Niu, that's one of the things is voyaging has always been a part of the history there. And we see that in like the mo'olelo and the canoe moorings on the beach, and the stories of like canoes coming in the channels there, and also just the navigational sites that are in the area.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's cool to connect like on a local level to the things we're still practicing today in our voyaging traditions. It's all very connected.
Like, I always, I've only traveled off and on the island from like flying up and above, and like, as you see the islands disappear, but to like see them disappear over the horizon must be a completely different like experience. And then turning around and not seeing an island for so long and then having them come into view, I can't even imagine.
It's coming right over the horizon. and speaking of vai, all the convection that happens that creates, the water that runs down through the way that the island was formed into our aquifers, it's very similar to the same systems that happen out there. And so when you're seeing these big storms release a lot of the heat that they've absorbed and they're raining down, I mean, it's that flow of water and gravity and evaporation, the same things that happen out there at sea. And varying levels of severity, but it just makes me also feel very fortunate that we have these places to live, because out there it's places you can't actually survive for, your hopefully like 70 to 90 to 100 years of life on land. And so it just makes you think like we really need to take care of our islands, because these are the places that house us, because out there it is very harsh. Even though it's the same systems, it's very harsh.
And so, which is why, like, even though it's not a functioning local ia in the way that it historically was, something that we like to share at Keavava is like, we once were a part of that 523-acre local ia that was there that could feed people. And so that's kind of like in your guys' future hopes, is to one day be able to be that space. Maybe, I don't know if you guys are looking forward to like feeding through actual like food and nutrients, but I know you guys currently are feeding through just being able to get your hands into the ground, to hear that knowledge and to soak all that up and to be able to create those relationships with the kipuka within a very urbanized area that has, growing up on Ahuimanu side, I see a lot of green, a lot of the spaces are still there. It's kind of hidden underneath all the ivy, but like are still there, whereas you come to the east side, well, not the east side, Kona side, it's very city-like. And so for our viewers and things that want to be able to come and build those relationships and start their journey and like learning about this space, how can they connect with you, or do you guys have like planned volunteer days?
Yes, so it fluctuates with the type of projects that we're doing, but I think the best way is always to just contact me at Hoshijo, KHOSHIJO, MFHC@gmail.com.
Okay.
Or MaunaluaFishpond.org for more general, questions. And those will all come through us, and we can get you involved on our email list. And so, yeah, I always welcome as many volunteers as possible to
awesome.
these spaces. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, and so this is the spring again for our final.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of before we end our show, wanted to know like fun stories and things, like anything funny or cool that has happened at this space that you can think of.
Oh, funny. I think just having people there is funny. Like there's so many community members that come, and they're just such a joy of laughter. The kids, they're hilarious. They have all these ideas of what you can do at a fish pond that I have never even thought of.
Oh.
And so, different ways of trapping the fish or different, and I didn't know you could do these things. And so they're always encouraging us. I don't know about anything comical too much, but I think the kids just, they crack me up every time. They always they can't stay still very well.
Do they get to go inside the water with you guys too?
At times it depends, safety is a big thing, so we just have to watch always. And
I see.
But the fishing side is something we do for invasive species removal. We try to fish out tilapia. And so that's something always really funny and fun. And a lot of kids are wondering what type of fish that even is. And so, yeah, it's funny to watch the kids work together to get like the tilapias out.
Is it like pull or like throw
Just
net?
pull.
Oh.
Yeah, pull. Yeah.
Oh, so not in the spring though, because I know you in one of the.
No, yeah, right in the
spring
There's
too?
a lot of tilapia in the spring, so we just try to do as much small invasive species removal we can. Yeah.
I see. Oh, cool. So thank you again for coming and for sharing about your journey through learning about the past of Maunalua and New Valley and how it's led you into being such a wonderful teacher and a link between the past and the present and now into the future, and all the wonderful things that's happening at Maunalua Fishpond Heritage Center. And I look forward to seeing you on site sometime and being able to go and learn more while touching and being able to be in place. And so I just wanted to say thank you to Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, Ōlelo Maunalua, and for you guys for coming and joining us. I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening.
Mahalo.
I went over.